Okay, in the last video, we started to make some functions that we're going to use to sign in or sign up from our homepage here. But before we can really fill in those functions, we need to set up the backend. Our app is going to need a backend for three reasons. It's going to need to authenticate for us, meaning save our login information, authenticate our users. Secondly, it's going to need to save information about our users on a database, namely when we sign in and start making the to-do list, it's going to need to save the items in the to-do list and also our first and last name, perhaps. And the last thing the backend will need to do is it will need to host our app, or it will need to host the web version of our app, the website version of our app, our web app. The App Store version and the Android version will connect to the authentication and database portions of our backend, but they won't require hosting on the backend. All right, so let's talk about how we set up our backend. You're going to need to sign up for Firebase. Firebase is like a full backend environment that Google provides. If you already have a Google account, you can basically just use it to start with Firebase. Firebase is free at the beginning, but if you want like some of the more advanced features, or if you start getting real major traffic or major calls to your database, then you would have to pay money. But for right now, it should be free. So I've already got a Firebase account. I'm going to go to the console here. And you can see I've already got some of my past projects here. I'm going to create a new project. And I will call this, how about Zach's to-do list app. I'm going to call it Zach's to-do list app. Press continue. Saying, do I want Google Analytics for your Firebase project? You can, we're not going to really use Google Analytics in our app, but you can still just keep it on just for practice. All right, it's asking me to configure a Google Analytics account. Zach's to-do list app. I'm not changing anything here. Create project, and it's creating a backend for my app. I can specify backend pieces for iOS, specify backend pieces for Android. All I really need to do is specify backend pieces for the web, because I can connect my iOS and Android apps to the same database that I create for the web. I don't need to, for my app, because it's not very complicated. For this app, I mean, I don't need to set up a special, I don't need to specifically add an iOS app to the backend or an Android app to the backend. I can do basically everything I need with just adding a web app to the backend. I'm going to do that. Register app. So I'll call it Zach's to-do list. And yes, I am going to want to set up Firebase hosting because I want to show how to host the web version of the app. So register app. Okay, it says copy and paste these scripts into the bottom of your body into the bottom of your body tag. I'm actually not going to paste these in because we're going to do this the React way. This is if you're using a more traditional, just straight up HTML web app, then you would do it this way, but I'm going to skip this part. So I'm just going to hit next. All right, this is important. I need to run this command in a terminal. It's going to install Firebase globally. So basically it's going to let me interact with Firebase using the command line down here. So that's important. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it right now, but you definitely have to run this in. You definitely have to run it you can run it anywhere because you're installing it globally. That's what the -G means. But I'm not going to run it right now because I've already run it. So you got to do that. Okay. And then you need to run this command in the terminal as well, Firebase login. It's going to ask you for your Google username and password. And that's just to make sure that the terminal itself is logged in to Firebase. Okay, now this is important. Before I run Firebase init, okay, I need to do a couple things. I need to search for how to add Firebase to JavaScript project. And I need to take a look at this documentation. Now let's see, step 1, create a Firebase project. I've already done that. Step 2, register your app with Firebase. I've already done that. Step 3, add Firebase SDKs and initialize Firebase. Okay, I haven't done this yet. Now, if you look here, there's different ways to connect Firebase, connect your app to Firebase. This was the one that was trying to get me to do before, but I want to do this one. I want to use modules because that's how I've been doing everything so far, right? I've been running npm commands, which stands for Node Package Manager. So I don't need to do an npm init because that just creates some of the more rudimentary stuff, but I've already got a lot of that. I've already got like a package.json. I do need to do this though. This is going to install Firebase in like the node modules folder, and it's also going to add it to the package.json. I need to do that. And once I've done that, I need to import these items into my project. I need to import Firebase because all I've done is I've installed it in the node modules and I've added it to my package JSON. I did that by doing npm install -- Firebase. Now I actually need to put it in the code. And the best way to do that is to actually take all of this stuff and put it in a separate file and then export that information to this file, this app.tsx. Let me show you how that's done. Okay, I'm going to create a file in the source folder. New file. I'm going to call it fb config for Firebase config, and it's just going to be a regular JavaScript file. Right. And in this file, I'm going to take this statement, import Firebase. I'm going to take, I can take this one if I want. In this tutorial, I'm not going to be using analytics, so I'll actually just skip it. I'm really just using these two, import Firebase, import these two. Okay. So Firestore, by the way, is the database. That's like the newest version of Firebase's database. It's called Firestore. All right, and then we need this. This information also needs to be added. And the way you find this information, see, it's like ... I can't just copy this because this is not actually showing real information here. The way you get that is like this. You go to your web app and you go to the settings of your web app and you scroll down. And if you go to this config, you'll get all of your information here. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to add it to my file here. All right, let's go back to the instructions. All right, and now I'm going to actually initialize Firebase with this line of code. And then lastly, I want to export two of the two main things that I'm going to use Firebase for, that my app is going to use Firebase for. It's going to use authentication, and it's going to use the database, the Firestore database. Once you've done all of this, then you can go to your app file, and you can import that information like this. You can type import, you're importing auth and db from /fbconfig. That's the location of the file where the information is. Once I've set up that external file, I can go back to this and I can run this Firebase init. I can run Firebase init now in this folder. You're currently outside your home directory. That's okay. I think that just means that it doesn't recognize this directory structure exactly, but we can just say yes to that. What Firebase CLI features do you want to set up for this folder? So this is CLI, means command line interface. We're not actually going to interact with the database from the command line, or the Firestore database, I should say. And we're not going to interact with authentication from the command line directly, other than just logging in ourselves to the Firebase, which we did already. The main thing that we're going to do from the command line is just the hosting. We're going to deploy our web app from the command line. Now then, I just remembered something. I'm actually going to get out of this for a second. I know that it's about to ask me a question about this build folder, because remember, I'm doing this mainly for the web app right now. I mean, I'm doing this part, this auth and database part. I did that for the web app, the iOS app, and the Android app. The hosting part is just for the web app. I'm actually going to get out of this for a second, and I want to run that Ionic build command one more time, just to make sure that I have an up-to-date build folder. Again, I don't know if I probably don't have to do this. I know I need at least a build folder ready to go. I just want to run it one more time. Okay, so the build folder is there. And now I'm going to run that last command, Firebase init. Yes, hosting, only hosting, enter. Please select an option, use existing project. Yeah, we created a project, and it was called Zach's to-do list app, so it's right here. What do you want to use as your public directory? This is where you don't type public, you type build. Configure as a single page app, write all URLs to index. That's a yes. Set up automatic builds and deploys with GitHub. Let's do no for that. File build / index HTML already exists. Overwrite. No, you do not want to overwrite it. Okay, great. We've done a Firebase initialization. Now let's see if we can actually deploy this app, which doesn't really work yet, but I still want to see if the deploy works. So I'm going to do Firebase deploy. And if I logged in, and if I correctly set up Firebase following all those steps that I just went through, it will deploy, and it will actually, since I haven't actually, I don't have I haven't connected a real URL, like a real domain, to my Firebase account yet. So it's created one for me. So if I go there and open it, my app is now actually on the web. Okay, this is a website that I can send to people. It is a real it is a real app. It is we have in some sense, in some ways, we've already created a web app, but of course, there's more that needs to be added. We need to actually make it work. But we just went through probably one of the hardest parts of this whole process, which is like setting up our app to interact with the backend. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to interact more fully with the backend, because really all we've done is we're hosting on the backend. But in the next video, I'm gonna start talking about how to authenticate using the backend, or how to like keep track of users. See you soon.